Welcome, everyone. Give it a moment for people to load in. All right, things are loading pretty quickly here. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Okay, I think most people are loaded in. Anyone who's late will be able to catch up there. I'll get things kicked off. Screen sharing. Yes, I am screen sharing. Okay. Welcome everyone. Thanks for the October partner update. Again, for those of you who may be new with us, my name is Robbie. I'm VP of Product here at Augmentt. We like to put these on monthly, just so we can keep you in tune with what's going on at Augmentt and what we're about to work on. And it's a great opportunity for you guys to give feedback as well. Or that's how we like to see it anyway. So feel free to give feedback. Just typical maintenance stuff. So if you want to chat, banter, etc., I'd appreciate if you use the webinar chat for that. If you have actual questions you want me to answer, let's use a Q&A that allows me to track them and make sure I've answered everything. And if I can't answer everything now, it allows me to track it so that I can provide answers later on. So I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll jump right into the product updates for this month. So we had quite a few requests over the past few months for canceling pending GDAP relationships. So we had been tracking these. We were manually removing them for you guys. It's kind of a little thing where if you created the relationship through Augmentt, you actually can't see the pending relationships in Microsoft. And in this case, you couldn't clear them out and they would appear in our UI. And if you'd alternatively made another relationship or something, our UI wouldn't update to reflect that. So we just added a cancel button. You can clear them out. You know, this happens sometimes. You might be prospecting. The prospect decides not to, move forward or accept the relationship, and then it just got stuck. So you have an easy way to just self-clean them, and it makes it a very simple process. Next on, I think, one of the big things we've been talking about that is very interesting for you guys is our Intune progress. So right now I have very limited beta with very limited functionality. We just wanted to make sure that we could successfully, we had pulled all the right permissions in the app, and then we were able to pull data. So all it does is read right now. So very limited people have that. I'll be opening the beta up because maybe this week, definitely by next week, at least by release Thursday, we will now be able to configure device config templates. You can generate your own templates in Augmentt, so import them from your environments, and same for the compliance templates and deployments as well. So this will be a great test. Basically, the next steps of being able to actually create the environment, create your baselines, and deploy them back into other tenants. It's limited right now in terms of UI. As you can see, we just show you the JSON, and you can configure kind of the major, the top requirements you need to push something out. So choose your users or groups or devices, that kind of stuff. It's certainly not to the level of conditional access right now where you can set all your variables and that kind of stuff. But this will allow you to test those very common scenarios. And in fact, in our research, I think the majority of the templates you'd be pushing out would be templates that could generally be used across customers without variables. So that's a huge milestone for us. And if you're interested in testing, so if you're already on the beta group and you would know this because you've probably received emails from me around it in the past, don't worry about it. You'll get a notification. I'll send an email out. If you're new and you want to make sure that you're included in the Intune beta, well, let me know. The way to do that would be to email me directly, leave a note here in the chat. or just email our support or anything. We're a small company, it'll get to us and we'll include you on the beta. So as we progress through this beta, the next things we're going to be working on is the device enrollment. So I think that'll be a great step. And the very interesting part about the Intune stuff, and something, some of the partners that have been with us for a while may have experienced in the past, is that you used to require a reintegration to get new features. We've managed to automate this process now where reintegration will not be necessary in order for us to get new scopes and permissions. And as far as we can tell, no additional GDAP permissions are required in order to get moving with the Intune. So huge benefit there. Nice and seamless. And next is our AI policy analysis beta. So I think I've demoed our chat tool a little while back, and the chat was very much used as a proof of concept to see what was possible for us from an AI perspective. It's not something we wanted to essentially release as is, just a kind of open chat. There's a ton of chats out there. But the important part about our chat is it's actually able to talk to Graph, and it's multi-tenant, right? So you can, as you do an Augmentt, pick your tenant, talk to that tenant, pick another tenant, talk to that tenant, and you can query and make changes if you want. But of course, we wanted to streamline this to make it, very specific in terms of value and generating outcomes. And so what you can now do, or what we will be beta testing, is the ability upon the deployment of a conditional access policy to actually do an AI analysis of that policy. So, the JSON says, hey, we're going to deploy this data. Let's look at the existing environment, how it's set up. It logs from the, recent history and see if we can envision in advance any conflicts there may be. I think in terms of value, this is extremely powerful. One, because you guys told me. I mean, I've been having a lot of conversations with people around AI and how we'd implement this. Secondly, the typical flow for doing this is release the policy, put it in report only, wait some weeks or months, right? You might have tools that only do things once a month or whatever. Manually go look at some logs, hope that you've done the log analysis diligently, and then, see if you'd have broken anything, if you missed anything. And what that does not do, though, that typical process that would take weeks, months, of waiting time in terms of span, and probably hours of your time analyzing logs, and that assumes you're not glossing over logs because it's boring as heck to do. It still won't guarantee that you haven't made a mistakes in terms of another setting in the environment somewhere, or the rest of your conditional access policies in your environment. You might be making a change that, when you look at the policy, perfectly safe, except for the fact that you didn't account for another setting that might open a hole. And so this analysis also tries to actually tackle that. So what we'll be doing is putting it out there with some of you to hopefully validate some environments, get your feedback on whether the outcome that the analysis tool is generating is valuable, caught everything, seems realistic, is hallucinating, so on. And we'll hone it in from there. And there's definitely a ton more in this general area. Once we can validate that it works well for conditional access, there are plans and feedback that you guys have given us in terms of incorporating this in many parts of the app. So as we typically do, I'll jump into a quick demo of the app as we have it today. Just switch screens. Hopefully the correct one. I get a thumbs up on size, and I think you guys want more font. Looking good. See my browser? Okay, so I'll do a quick jump into, first I'll show the GDAP relationships. Those are released today. They were in the release notes last week. You can access them right now. So you can see here that I've got relationships that we had created that were not accepted, and I can simply delete those relationships. There we go. I'll even do it. There you go. It's gone. And that would clear up those relationships. So easy peasy feature, and that's the point, is makes it simple to manage. Now I'll jump into Intune. So as you can see, I've got, and our UI obviously will get cleaned up. This is definitely still early stages, but as you can see, similar to what we do with conditional access policy, you've got your existing environment, all the policies that exist today. You can see the environment, right? I could switch to another tenant and see them as well, although this is the only one where we have Intune right now. So I've got my configuration templates, so I can create a new template, choose from any existing environment, right? Pick the type of template I want to import from that environment. And now I'm copying templates that exist, right? So you will basically create your perfect environment either in one tenant or across tenants, take all the best pieces of it, import them in Augmentt, right? Such as this. It shows you all the data in that policy, create it, and I've now added it here. And then I can even include it in a baseline, for example. So I could either include it in an existing baseline or just create a new baseline. And really the power of that is that you can have variations of baselines, and that can account for services that, get more and more like tighter and stringent, or depending on the licensing of a tenant, so on and so forth. So you're not limited to like one golden tenant that you're copying everything from. And then, exact same thing from your device compliance. We'll show you all your device compliance policies. You can see them. Again, limited UI at this stage, but you can see all the data via the JSON. Eventually we'll clean that up just like we do on conditional access, and get all that mapped up in a UI. You can import your policy, same principle, and then you've got your templates. Sorry, that was a deploy. You can import your templates and create them in this environment, and then push them out. So I can come here and choose either a policy or a baseline so here's my test baseline that has the two different policies inside of it. And then I can simply roll those out if I wanted to. And I've got a ton in the environment, so I will not bother. And then I'll switch to production environment that has switch into production just because we actually have more token availability on our AI tool versus development. So what I'll do is I'll go to conditional access policies. I'll deploy a policy, and for example, I'll choose like block legacy auth somewhere. Perhaps not. Okay, so choose this policy here. I would go through, I would choose, all my typical stuff. I'll even exclude a break glass account. And then I can click the AI analysis. It's pre-prompted, so it's got all the data behind it to do everything I talked about, which is evaluate your whole environment in terms of past logs. That's sign-in logs, looking through your apps, depending on the policy type, looking at your existing environments, conditional access policies, and then other general settings. And I don't know if it'll, take time. It very much depends on the different prompt, etc. And it's supposed to give you a general analysis of what it believes implementing this policy would do. Oh, where did I misspell things that you caught on to? Or was that just in some of the quick and dirty test policies I had there? We'll give it a moment. We'll see if comes out with something interesting here. Good news is AI doesn't care too much. I'll grab some questions while that's going through here. So There's a question around if Intune will have basically drift alerting. Not yet. Um, we plan on having a very similar functionality as we do with our conditional access drift monitoring. That is not yet built out. So there's a question, will you guys build a template for CIS level 1 Intune? We plan on building out many out-of-box templates similar to what we have today in conditional access. Specifically CIS level 1 probably, and generally great practices as well. But yes, and I'll show you something right after this quick demo, but compliance, we'll be having a big push into compliance in the near future. Granted, we do a lot from a security posture auditing perspective, but we'll try and make it easier for you to deploy the best practices here. So great question there. So it's one of the questions was, I think it's around Intune. So some configuration policies require tenant IDs. Would this be able to auto-populate? So if you've seen how we do conditional access today, where what you do is you create the template, and then eventually you'll be able to or today in conditional access, you can say, okay, this playbook, requires this entry. And then when you're deploying it, we show you the variables and you get to choose them. This will be a very similar principle. I think the config policies requiring tenant ID, is that for enrollment perspective, actually? I'd love to know which portion it is, and I'd love to have conversations around more details, or you can definitely join the beta. So I'll jump back to the findings, not that I'll go over all of this, but it's assessing, the policy in the existing JSON that we are considering deploying. Talks about targeted users, realizes we've got exclusions, et cetera, and conditions. And then the impact analysis, if you guys just want to read through, I won't do that, but I'll scroll slowly. Yeah, see, it tells me actually your environment already has a bunch of policies in report only mode. Now, hopefully yours wouldn't be like that, but it could provide a general analysis, duplication, things like that. We've seen it give pretty good outcomes from that respect, actually. We've seen it call out specific users. Yeah, see, this user will not be impacted. No application exclusions are configured, which could impact business critical operations if legitimate users are in untrusted locations, right? So that's a good little call out as an example here. Dude, clean up your mess. Yeah, I love that. Let's see if there's I mean, the whole thing is pretty interesting typically, if you take the time to read it, but and they typically have general recommendations you can add alongside what you're trying to create at the time, which is great. So this is where we're currently at, and we'll keep refining this, and we'll keep adding it to other parts of the product as well. Let's see, I'll stop sharing. I'll go back to my slides here. But yeah, if you have any questions around that, that would be awesome. I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, returning to the slides. So let me catch any questions here. I think we're up to date. Okay. Next, we'll talk a little bit about roadmap and where Augmentt's going and what we've been working on or what we are working on. So, released recently, we've done the Defender, we had the new alerts, and now your pending GDAP cancellation. In beta is now the Intune and the AI, and we're now starting to do the Intune enrollment profiles. Still, unfortunately, this got a little bit delayed, but this direct send audit is still on the radar here, and we do plan on completing that. We're implementing report exports to respect filters right now. So that's slowly going through. I think we might see the first report come out. I forget which one we built first. API webhooks for, actually, I should have been more specific. This is for alerts. So one thing that is currently in progress is the ability to add, we're working on basically alerting API webhooks. So you'll be able to actually register for alert notifications and send them to any kind of automations. So that's in progress, and we'll get that in beta soon enough. And actually, through our forums, it was actually a feature request to add automation on the fact that when a user gets created, we should automatically block PowerShell access as a good measure. And that simply made me realize, well, that's because we didn't add PowerShell access to the onboarding flow and to our templating. And so that was actually a very good call out, and that's being implemented right now. So things that'll be coming up next, there'll be Intune policy continuation of work past, the Intune enrollment. So we certainly don't stop there. And part of that project will be group templating and deployment. So we're rolling that part of the Intune because although it's generally valuable and valuable on conditional access and defender policies, which we have today, it definitely became to light that it was extremely important when it comes to managing Intune policies. So that'll be included in here as well. Actually, I did call them out separately, but basically all part of that continuation of work. I think I've mentioned this a few times before, but we're finally kind of hitting final stages of getting available in the Pax8 marketplace. And one thing we'll be adding as an extra capability there once we're integrated is the ability to buy licenses directly through Pax8. And then, this planning phase is really here so that if you're interested in this, we'd love to have those conversations. I think we already know that there's a lot of interest in the audit logs, so we have a pretty good plan around that. But engage user profiles is something that we've had a lot of feedback around recently that we're definitely planning on doing later this quarter. So that is because we kind of do the bare minimum right now in terms of creating a user in Engage. And there's a lot of other user details available that we're being asked to leverage. So we'll definitely be exposing those and adding an edit capability. But the big one is for us, and a question that came up earlier actually, is the security milestones, or that's the internal name we're giving them, which is essentially the ability to create, we'll have out-of-box compliance templates, and then the ability for you to create your own custom templates. A second here. So these are just screenshots, kind of, research phase stuff that we're looking at ways we could possibly implement this. If you're interested in having conversations around this, we are interested in talking to you. I know I saw Matthew on the call earlier. Don't worry, we're already booked for a call, I believe, next week. So generally, there's a few things that were described to us as scenarios that you guys are trying to achieve, right? One is, call it my customers on my level 1 security plan right now. And I got to make sure that I'm not drifting off of that level 1. We're calling them security milestone. But you can think of it as, I want to be on CIS level 1, right? But you might be trying to get this customer to CIS level 2, or you might be trying to upsell the project work to get them to CIS level 2. And so what this would allow you to do is take either out-of-box recommendations, which will be based on compliance standards for our security audit recommendations, or build your own custom template of them, right? So whether you want to add stuff, remove stuff based on the licensing you own or a customer owns, etc. And then tag your existing posture items against those different levels so that you can simultaneously, which is the big difference right now, right? Rather than having a single customization of the audit, which you do today, and then saying, am I meeting those requirements today? you'll be able to say, am I drifting against where I should be today? But where am I against these other milestones, be them custom or compliance-based ones? So it kind of gives you a few things that you can look at the same time, hopefully in a very easy way. And then obviously, as you look at the UI, you can see that it's a general revamp of our existing UI where we're trying to add additional detail. You've got your secure score. We want to surface where you are on that in relative to other people in the same verticals or area, which is a feature that Microsoft already has. We want to try and show you history and drifting, progress or degradation here, and kind of tighten up the UI, clean up the UI so it takes less space and you can see more stuff in kind of one screen area. So additionally, with that comes hopefully the capability of drift monitoring for posture items. This is an ask we get every once in a while, so we can see, where's the environment today, but I want to be able to show my customer the progress or degradation over time, or even how things just tend to shift. As you can probably tell, this uses a very similar UI to what we do to our conditional access drift monitoring today, which I think is a very well received way of displaying this data. And that would be able to hopefully give you a history over time per security recommendation. So you can align to CIS standards generally, and then you can monitor any kind of drift at a very granular level. And actually, in fact, I may have missed this in my roadmap, but one thing we've already started working on is generally the ability to have alerting on any degradation of your security recommendations. So that's already in the works. The idea is that if MFA, goes from compliant to non-compliant or compliant to partially compliant, you'd get a notification. Partial to non-compliant would also get notifications. So I use MFA as the example. This would be true for essentially every posture that you would have in your customized audit at this stage. So that's currently ongoing, and then this would take that to essentially another level. I'll try to catch up on some questions here, but feel free to drop some if you have any. So for AI stuff, will Augmentt be using your own AI credits, or do we have to provide our own? It could get expensive, and I'm wondering if you've done a cost analysis. Yeah, I've talked about this in the past. We can't really let you bring your own AI right now. The way it works for us, because the magic sauce that we've done is essentially integrated. It's integrated into Graph API, and we're passing through all the tokens and permissions and all that stuff through the integration that you already have. Because if you just wanted to, get your own AI and connect to a tenant, there's already MCPs out there, and you can sign up for Cloud Desktop and get connected. The hard stuff, though, is how do you do it across 100 tenants, right? So unless you want to create 100 apps, do 100 integrations, Claude will probably get confused by the fact that you have 100. You'll have to manage all the enterprise apps, permissions, tokens, so on and so forth. You can do this today, but the value is building it, having it in product with the context of Augmentt data, and having us manage basically essentially your permissions through your GDAP relationships. We're making it CSP connected, so on and so forth. From a cost analysis perspective, as we've said, part of the reason we're not just putting out a chat, which we've had for months now, is because it's extremely expensive. I mean, you could spin up thousands of dollars if you just hammer it with questions and you get these long, JSON replies back of data of the environment. So obviously the smart way to tackle this is to identify the value-based scenarios, right? So if something would take you hours to do and you can do it in a few minutes, but it costs a few dollars of AI, that makes sense because you're worth more than a few dollars over hours of work, right? And then you can probably generate better outcomes this way. So that's really the way we're thinking about implementing this. um, let's see here. Tad, shoot me an email. So you're asking how to join the beta. So anyone who wants to know, our emails are first.last@augmentt.com. Shoot me an email. We'll include you. If you don't find us, just go in app, use the chat, say you want to be included in the beta. Think I'm all caught up on questions here. Catching up on the chat here. Yeah, and actually someone mentioned, right? So I just want to make sure the costs of AI don't get out of hand and we'd be looking at unreasonable price increases. First of all, we'll probably package AI independently, specifically for those reasons. So there is no intention of just doing a generalized, increase because we're adding AI functionality. Instead, we'll figure out the value, we'll show you the value, and if you want to opt into it, you'll be able to buy those packages that bring you a ton of value. At least, that's generally the way we're thinking about it right now. I like to kind of highlight some of the stuff we do here. So from a learning perspective, if you missed it, we put out a webinar last week with our security officer, David Haynes. So he went through mastering the Microsoft Partner Center portal. So I think there was a lot of value in that webinar. If you missed it, just go on our website under the webinar section. You can definitely catch up on some of that stuff. And again, I think I've mentioned it through this chat, but I like to always put it back here because every time we have one of these webinars, I end up having a few more people register for the community. And as the community grows, it simply makes things better for everyone. So join our community. There's a lot of discussions happening there. And as I've mentioned, some features that are being built right now specifically because they were raised up there. So I'm trying to consolidate a lot of the feedback there. You guys can vote on things and just generally have conversations around, M365 security, the product, so on and so forth. So I'll leave it there for this session. Whoop. Yeah, and I'll see if any questions pop up in the next moment here. And if not, I'd again like to thank everyone for joining us. If you have feedbacks on the format, we're all ears. We try to do these for you. We hope they're useful. And we'll see you next month otherwise. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.